We concluded 37. We're going to go to 38 to receive a preliminary report in response to Board Referral number 25.11, seeking to adopt an ordinance to prohibit recreational vehicles parking on the entirety of Railroad Avenue. And there's additional language there, but I'm going to turn it over to Director of Public Works, Facilities, and Parks, Randy Ishii.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. As introduced, I'm Randy Ishii, Director of Public Works, Facilities, and Parks. And with me on the line are various staff members from the department, specifically our traffic engineering section, as well as other departments that are germane to the preliminary analysis report response for Board Referral 2025.11. In terms of overview for the presentation for the public and the board today, we will go through the background, talk about process, then we'll talk about challenges, and then end with recommendations, options, and questions and comments. Staff understands the background of Board Referral number 2025.11. As stated in the Board Referral, there are homeless individuals who are living in recreational vehicles along this road in Pajaro without appropriate services. There is roadside parking of these recreational vehicles on Railroad Ave and has created a consistent and increasing public health and safety concern for the community and businesses of Pajaro. These unhoused persons living in these recreational vehicles along this road without those services are causing disruptions for residents and businesses, potential crime, traffic hazards caused by parked vehicles, blocking travel lanes, and the illegal dumping of trash and refuse. And thus, the Board Referral seeks to adopt an ordinance to prohibit recreational vehicles parking on the entirety of Railroad Avenue, to establish a tow-away zone authority, and authorizing the immediate removal of these vehicles that violate this no parking restriction. By way of reference for the public and for the board, this exhibit is the location map showing the community of Pajaro, and the road known as Railroad Avenue is approximately on the southerly side of the unincorporated community. The green line work represents county-maintained roads, whereas the salmon-colored line work represents private roads. As of 30 October 25, staff took pictures of the conditions of the roadway. The top exhibit represents the Railroad Avenue at approximately 280 feet east of the private road of Waters Lane. And in this exhibit, you're looking towards the east. In the bottom picture, we have Railroad Avenue near Waters Lane looking east. And as can be seen in the upper exhibit, approximately 280 feet east of the private road of Waters Lane, there are some recreational vehicles that are parked out there during the daytime at the time of the taking of these photos. And again, that same day, staff observed that there was quite a bit of litter along the edge of the roadway / within the right-of-way. In terms of process, staff has been reviewing the board referral and the engineering processes involved in traffic engineering, and thus one of the first steps that will need to be conducted is to perform a traffic engineering study, which in this case, it will need to be inclusive of some public outreach and engagement for full understanding, but also this is the opportunity for staff to perform and conduct further research into the particulars of this referral. And as noted in the second bullet, staff have reviewed and determined that we'll need to work closely with the County Counsel's Office on definition and details. At this juncture, staff cannot find a definition in the California Vehicle Code for a recreational vehicle. Thus, there may be need for one to be crafted with the help of County Counsel's Office, very particular for Monterey County. After that, that would include the preparation of the ordinance, and then bringing that back to the governing body for review and approval. In terms of resources required, generally and by and large, it would appear that there will be staffing. That will be the primary need, specifically through the department's traffic engineering section. Housing and community development, HCD, will need to be involved. County Counsel's Office, as mentioned previously. There could be a need for Environmental Health Bureau in that there is a public health concern with these vehicles that do carry sewage within them. And there's question about the proper disposal of sewage, so our Environmental Health Bureau will need to be engaged. The Office of Homeless Services will need to be engaged on this matter as well. There may need to be some resources from the County Administrative Office. And for enforcement, because legislation requires enforcement to make it meaningful, there will need to be engagement by the law enforcement agencies, such as the California Highway Patrol and the Monterey County Sheriff's Office. As a very high-level estimate at this juncture in terms of cost, primarily in staff time and some materials, the department estimates $15,000 from our department for the next steps on this for referrals processing. And as stated in the board report, staff plans on trying to return to the board by February 2026 as our target, assuming that the review, research, and the study can justify this ordinance. An avenue that's possible through the board referral process is to do an urgency ordinance due to the health and safety concerns, and that would compress these timelines. In terms of challenges seen at this point in time in review of the referral, coordination with the stakeholders will be one of our challenges, as well as community outreach and engagement. And as mentioned previously, the establishing of definitions and criteria for the violations will be a significant part of the preparation of the study as well as the ordinance, whichever avenue that it may take. Again, because there's certain definitions that do not exist in the California Vehicle Code, which is the state law that the department relies upon. By way of background and reference for the board and for the public, there are some existing things that are in place that staff have found and are bringing forward for awareness. This map shows the existing no parking at any time along Railroad Avenue, which is part of the existing Monterey County Code, section 12.28.010. Again, no parking at any time. The red line work represents no parking on the north side of Railroad Avenue in Pajaro from the center line of Salinas Road easterly for a distance of approximately 770 feet. And then there's orange line work that you see on the southerly side of the road of Railroad Avenue, again extending up to the east from a distance of approximately 1,807 feet from the center line of Salinas Road, and another point 25 east of the center line of the private road of Waters Lane, generally east for a distance of 293 feet. So those are some existing no parking ordinances that already exist. And in the time that staff have had with the referral, staff have conducted a sampling of research ranging from the South Bay to Santa Cruz, down to Southern California. And in doing a little bit of benchmarking the time that was available, a lot of these city examples of no RV parking exist primarily as a RV parking permit and are more akin to a permit program rather than an all-out prohibition. So some additional research is going to be needed on this. And as a reference point, when the city of Santa Cruz conducted their process, staff spoke with the staff at the city, and it sounded like that was a several year-long process involving the California Coastal Commission because it's in the coastal zone. So that takes us back to recommendations and options. At this juncture, staff recommend that the board receive the preliminary analysis report and direct staff to proceed with completion of its response to the referral based on the proposed project description, which by way of reference is to continue the traffic engineering study and research necessary to seek to adopt an ordinance to prohibit recreational vehicles parking on the entirety of Railroad Avenue, establishing a tollway zone, and authorizing the immediate removal of vehicles that violate this no parking restriction. Alternatively, the board could direct staff to proceed with a modification to this referral or come back with a more comprehensive analysis to rescind the referral or provide further direction as appropriate. That concludes staff's presentation, and we bring it back to the board for questions or comments, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Ishii. Supervisor Church.
Thank you, Mr. Ishii, for that presentation. As you know, this has been a challenge on trying to find solutions for this. This became just a bigger issue over the course of the entire year, and trying to look at solutions. I've talked to CHP, I've talked to the sheriff's office, and all this. Anything that's going to be done is going to require some enforcement, but I think the feeling was, after discussing with them, is that at least by having an ordinance in place, it could be enforced to address this issue, which has become something which I've had businesses and neighbors in the community consistently complaining about. We saw pictures of litter. There's complaints of human waste around. There's taking up parking spaces. People don't feel safe with their kids, and plus the effect on a store that's nearby. It kind of points to the whole issue we had with that whole area with UP, with Union Pacific out of there, which has been somewhat of a haven for homeless problems there. In addition, over on Salinas Road, there is a growing number of vendors that are just right next to Railroad Avenue here that are now operating basically on a flea market matter, and with food and with a whole bunch of other items being sold, and I'm having a number of complaints coming from the business community about that, as well as residents on there. So this has become a real big of a problem area. In the long run, we probably have some kind of we're going to have to deal with it because the train station is planned in this general area in 4 or 5 years. So it's important for us to, I think, to stay at the forefront of this, because the Pajaro train station is going to be just about kitty corner to this. And at this point, this is this seems to be the best step forward that I can really see.
All right, Supervisor Alejo.
Yeah, I definitely support this, Supervisor Church. The only thing I would raise, as I raised it last time when it was just first reported, is that I think, Mr. Ishii, that the ordinance needs to look a little bit broader, not just railroad, because railroad, then if you keep going straight, it becomes Ingram Court. It's becomes like a dirt road, but it's on the map listed as Ingram Court. I don't know if that is a county road or if it's a private road, but if you prohibit parking on railroad, then it could just move down into that dirt road. And there's a lot of vacant properties there, so it might just move the problem a little over. The other piece I think that needs to be done is just having that communication with Union Pacific. That's always a difficult one. But if there were no trespassing signs listed on the property, tow-away signs listed on the private property, I think that would allow enforcement to be easier on that private property with the proper notices put up in signage. And I do have each Union Pacific has staff that deal with local issues. Supervisor Church, I have one from 2023. I don't know if it's still current, but I'll share that with you if you don't have it yet, because I had to deal with them here in the Salinas corridor also. And then, Randy, just in terms of the signages, the 15,000, is that factoring in the cost to put up signs along railroad to provide that legal notice that recreational vehicles are no longer permitted there once an ordinance is adopted?
Thank you very much for the clarifying question, Supervisor Alejo. The estimate at this time includes staff time for the research for the ordinance, the traffic engineering study, and the installation of signage, again, based on what we see at this point in time. We imagine we'll find more challenges along the way, but at this juncture, that's our estimate.
Thank you. That's all.
Supervisor Askew.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. And we had a similar challenge with a number of recreational vehicles, many of which were no longer actually operational along Lapis Road back in 2017. And I just wanted to ask that as we work to clean up the area, that there's thoughtfulness given to providing outreach to the individuals who clearly have nowhere else to park their vehicle and who are living in a recreational vehicle and parked on the side of the road. So I want to make sure that that there's thought and time put into conducting outreach and that services are provided as we ensure the safety of this particular road and the safety of the surrounding businesses and residences. We are dislocating people from a location that they've found to be the safest for them at that site to park their cars, park their vehicles. And so I one other question as we do that to make sure that they understand they can't stay there. We're basically saying you can't stay here, but we're not offering anywhere else permanent for them to go. So I would like to ask that we look at, and I know Roxanne Wilson in our homeless program, we've had a very effective safe parking program operational on the Monterey Peninsula now for many years. It is one of the most effective, cost-effective programs that we've had up and running. And so I would like to look at if there are any locations elsewhere in the county that could be operationalized in parallel with relocating or dislocating the individuals who are currently parked at this location. so that as we're telling them you can't stay here, we're offering an alternate site where they can park at least at night with some wraparound services. The folks who've been participating in the safe parking program in Marina, many of those individuals are working full-time, and with the additional wraparound services, they have been able to find permanent housing and move out of their vehicles. So I think it's something that's worth considering, that we're not just asking folks to move out of our jurisdiction and into someone else's jurisdiction and causing more trauma and more harm. So just needed to be really clear and go on record with that comment, because I think other jurisdictions are doing the same thing, which is what we're finding as people sort of move around and around. But thank you for hearing me out on that one.
Final thoughts? No? All right, I don't remember. Did I take this one out for public comment? Not yet. Let's do it again. Let's go out to public comment on this item. Thank you.
My name is Nancy Cahill. I'm with Pajaro Rescue Mission and Teen Challenge in Monterey Bay. I also live on Railroad Avenue. Thank you for considering this important issue in our community. The primary problem is not those few people who are from Monterey County that are parking in their RV looking for a place to live, and they just go to work and don't bother anybody. The primary problem, the greater problem, is a criminal network of people from outside the county that are finding us a friendly place to hang out. The man that was found, buried, murdered on the levee lived in an RV on Railroad Avenue. We need to protect our families. And this is according to our own Monterey County Sheriff deputy, that this is a problem from people not in Monterey County, but coming from outside Monterey County. This is a really good place for them to come and hang out. There were only two RVs out there when those pictures were taken, but there was just an enforcement. So most everybody leaves. You can see 10, 12, or more at a time. We need to protect our strawberry fields. Perhaps if on the end closer to Allison, as something more immediate, we were put up no parking signs on both sides of the road, that would protect our food source and then address the rest of it later.
Hello, Wes Weiss, Leeds Monterey County Homeless Union co-president. Completely opposed to this. I'm disappointed. I haven't heard anyone say anything about the people, really, other than the property. What about people's personal lives? You know, have you even talked to any of these people, or you just got to get rid of them? Right here, homeless individuals, that's your background concerns. Homeless individuals are living in recreational vehicles along this road without appropriate services. Factual statement. Okay, well, what do you want to do about it? Get rid of them? Why didn't you worry about without appropriate services? Why aren't you trying to set people up with services? Porta potties, hand washing stations, dumpsters, shower, laundry, things. And honestly, look at even the gray water. It's expensive to even dump that gray water. And if your vehicle's too old, they won't even let you do it in some places. So, and a lot of people don't even do that. They'll use a bucket. And so all your concerns, man, just seem really heavy-handed, mean-spirited, and has nothing to do with United States citizens. They have inalienable rights, you know, to their own property, because by pushing people out of here, what's going to happen next? You're going to ticket and tow people. You can't be here. You can't be here. Know where people can be, but yet you got to go. And you know what? These are the people that actually have more residual income. That's why they own their own vehicle, which is theft. You're stealing their vehicle, not just only their personal property, but real property that goes through title. Perpetually, dude. I mean, are you worried about Martin versus Boise? Are you worried about doing it better? Or are you addicted to attacking poor people on a daily basis? Oh, let's just make it faster. Oh man, it's an urgency. You know, we know what we could do, but we don't have time. They got to get on before February. What is your problem? Why are you so addicted to hurting people?
All right. We're going to go to Zoom. I see two hands up via Zoom. I've got Catherine first. Catherine. I go to Miller, M. Miller next.
We absolutely understand the homeless situation, and it definitely needs to be addressed. That's part of the problem that we're dealing with. We're in agreement that this proposal to end the RV parking on Railroad Avenue should go forward. However, we must look at the bigger picture and the ripple effect it will cause. To Supervisor Alejo's statement, it's not just along Railroad, it's along, namely our biggest concern is our ag fields that are surrounded by Railroad Avenue, Allison, and San Juan Road. We regularly have to contact Sheriff's Department and the Health Department to stop people who are living in their RVs from cutting our fences, stealing fruit, but more importantly, from using the area as a toilet. This is clearly a major federal food safety issue that cannot be overlooked. I sympathize and want to try and help the homeless situation, but we have to look at the bigger picture, because if you stop Railroad Avenue, it's going to continue on to Allison. We've had women performing things that I don't want to talk about in front of everybody, but not appropriate things happening in our RVs that are on Allison Road. We've had people that have been living on couches and such outside of their RVs alongside San Juan Road. We call regularly. I could probably list over 100 calls over the course of this last year to both sheriffs and health department for such things that are just. This is not a problem that's going to go away. We have to look at the bigger picture, and there has to be some kind of conversation about where these people are going to go. If, for example, with Supervisor Root Askew's statement, where are they going to go? We have to figure out what's next for them. Thank you.
We're at time. All right, going to bring it back to the dais. Supervisor Church.
Yeah, actually, on where they're going to go is something I and my staff and Roxanne Wilson, the homeless director, have been discussing about, and we have been trying to look for some safe parking zones in North County, and have been in some discussions with various property owners and locations over time. Obviously, this isn't going to be something that's going to go in place immediately either, and it's going to take time for something to be undeveloped. But that is correct. You got to approach this a multifold. First of all, there is a problem right here with where these RVs are right with people and businesses, people that are living right next to there with families that I'm getting constant complaints about, and the impact it's having on their lives right there, right across on their street, right in their front yard. And that is a significant issue that I think needs to be addressed right away, because those people that live on Railroad Avenue, their lives do matter. And at the same time, we have to look for a long-term approach. I mean, we have a homeless village over in Watsonville, which obviously is trying to address the homeless issues. There is a safe parking, and I think it's in Seaside. There's one in there. We need to have some more of those around. It's been successful. So, there are steps that are being done in that way, but it takes a multi-pronged approach.
Supervisor Alejo.
I just want to say I personally have been contacted by this issue on not necessarily our RVs, but also the encampments on Lewis and on that Ingram Court. That's where Allison turns and Ingram kind of goes straight. But I just want to respond to some of the public comments, because I agree with Supervisor Church. We're obligated to also listen to our constituents that live there. This is their neighborhood. They've lived there for decades in some cases. And these are the homes of agricultural workers, low-income families, some retirees. They've seen their neighborhood change just because you let 1, 2, then it becomes 15 RVs. You see the trash, you see the other social issues that go along with that. They deserve to have those issues addressed in their neighborhood. Their lives and their homes and their concerns are also important, because they're the people who live on that street each and every day. And I think it's our responsibility to address those public safety issues, the nuisance, the litter, and the parents' fears, not wanting to let their kids out because they're concerned. That doesn't give them a peace of mind when they return home from work. It's also, I want to be honest, we are trying to do a lot probably more than some other counties, to get projects off the ground. We're working on Project Home Keys here in Salinas. We're working on the Watsonville Tiny Homes project that's intended for also for Pajaro. There's more to do, right? And last meeting, we wanted to follow Roxanne's ideas to pursue some other encampment resolution funds so we could do more, because we agree there's more can and should be done. The cost is always the resources, because it's very expensive to get these projects across the finish line. But last thing I want to say was, it's not the taxpayer's responsibility to always have to pay for every one of these encampments, the trash cleanup, the sewage disposal, the restrooms, the shower needs. It is not the taxpayer's responsibility to do that for every single person, right? And I just wanted us to be honest. Everybody says, just bring all these resources. One, there's limited resources for this. It's very expensive over many months. But when we address these social issues, we have to recognize what is our what is the taxpayers and county government's responsibility, and what is not. And sometimes it's individual responsibility to clean up that and to find these other amenities that they need for their everyday lives. We try to help. We offer help in other ways, but sometimes the individuals choose to keep doing this, and then they cause these other social and nuisance issues that it's not always on our county government to have to pay the significant cost to clean up each and every time. Thank you.
Supervisor Daniels.
Thank you. I've got just share some of the concerns that have been expressed in terms of moving forward with this ordinance. What would or with the recommendation? Obviously, the folks that are parked on the street are going to have to go somewhere. And so my question is really for Roxanne, if she's listening. Do we know if Roxanne is online? Because it's really important to me to know what resources are available, what are the opportunities for folks that will be displaced. I haven't been on this dais as long as everyone else who's had has gone through this before, so I have a level of discomfort knowing that, folks are going to relocate somewhere. Where is that going to be? And how proactive are we going to be to ensure that folks that live in this area in their recreational vehicles will know what resources are available to them? And we'll leave it there.
Hello, I am on the call.
Thank you, Roxanne. I don't know if you got to hear my question, but I was curious about what resources, what locations, are there safe parking programs? So we're not just we're not solving one problem by creating one in another neighborhood. What resources are available to the folks who live on Railroad Avenue right now in recreational vehicles? And will we be proactively engaging with those individuals to try to direct them to safe parking programs, et cetera?
This particular historical encampment has a lot of history. Our office is aware when there are complaints on this encampment, and we do deploy street outreach teams to engage with people living in their vehicles along Railroad. We are aware that there needs to be more resources specifically for people who are living in large vehicles in North County. And as Supervisor Church had mentioned, we are meeting regularly to identify parcels that could possibly work out. But North County is just, it's just a complex area. It seems like there's an abundance of land there, but there's not a lot of infrastructure. So, and on top of that, new rounds of the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program does not allow us to pay for safe parking anymore. So even still, there will be funding requirements that at this very moment, the county does not have access to such resources. But until then, we do send outreach teams out there who can make connections to any programs that are available mostly in the city of Salinas.
Microphone.
Sorry, my apologies. The response date for Public Works is February 28th, 2026. Is there anything that could coincide with that response in terms of maybe an update on the conversations that Supervisor Church and you are having regarding potential safe parking locations?
At this very moment, the only funding even if we were to find a location, the only resource for funding that we would be able to ask for is either general fund or Measure AA. There's no other funding that could pay for that. So considering what the board had discussed about Measure AA and how we're not going to revisit that until next fiscal year, I am a little concerned about getting ahead of ourselves without knowing exactly how we're going to fund it.
Okay, well, then I'll just leave it by saying I have concerns in terms of creating a problem in another area. I recognize that the constituents, we need to be responsive and support the constituents who live in this neighborhood and try to resolve the challenges. But at this point, I'm more inclined to figure out porta potties or other potential resources because we're just going to move the problem to another neighborhood. So I'm not sure where we go with this. And again, you all have a lot more experience in this area than I am, but just as a newcomer, it doesn't look like we're solving a problem. It looks like we're moving it somewhere else. Thank you.
All right. Supervisor Askew.
Yeah, and when we're talking about safe parking program funding, we're not talking about a significant amount of money. I just want to make that really clear. The amount of money that I believe we fund when Starfish or from Productions, I'm not sure what name they're currently operating under. I mean, correct me, Roxanne, with the amount, but I believe it's somewhere in the range of less than $150,000, $200,000 a year for the full case management and security services. It's not a significant, it's one of the least expensive homeless service programs that we offer for the effectiveness that it provides. So I just want to be really, I feel very comfortable. I think we need to solve this problem for the residents on this area. I think we need to move forward with that. And I think we also need to move forward with a safe parking program. And just to be very also clear, we have safe parking program that's been operational in Marina on the county property that's adjacent to my office. The Monterey Peninsula Unified School District opened up a safe parking program on their property where they have 24 families who are sleeping in vehicles on a school district property. They've opened that up, and that's been operating now for some time. The city of Seaside has church property that offers safe parking. There's a whole number of churches throughout the entire Monterey Peninsula that offer safe parking available, all for different audiences. It all offers wraparound case management. And like I said, these are programs that are effectively moving people out of sleeping in their vehicles and into permanent shelter at a cost that is less than literally any other program that we have available to us. So as we think about even using general fund or AA funds, I couldn't be more supportive of saying, let's figure out where to put the program, the safe parking program, and let's fund it with whatever the resources that we've got to figure out, and let's clean up the safety of this street. If it is people from out of the community who are causing safety issues, they're not going to take advantage of the services that we're offering, but those who need the services are going to utilize them. There's a waiting list on all of these programs, and given the realities that people are facing, the need is out there. It's huge. It's tremendous, and the services will be utilized. So I'm comfortable and ask us to move forward with both of these services. And I would just ask that the safe parking portion be added to the referral, and that we move forward with both in parallel.
Oh, I think I'm the only one that's not commented on this yet. I'm supportive, Supervisor Church, and for several of the reasons that have already been outlined here. But there is one more piece that I heard mentioned that I don't think got enough attention, and that is the food safety concern. Really, it did not take a lot to bring the entire industry to its knees in Monterey County. Back the last time we had a big outbreak, I remember a young boy died in Michigan, and the whole nation was talking about us, about the Salinas Valley and how that happened. And I'm worried that looking at the proximity of this particular location to agricultural fields, it is a very real concern. I've got the same concern in areas in my district, and we've done what we can to push folks off that particular boundary given that concern. But looking at this in the direct proximity, it's a huge issue for me that, again, if you got out, the word was don't eat strawberries from Monterey County, that has been our #1 crop. This would hurt, and it would hurt across the table, everybody from, the folks that design the boxes to harvest the fruit to trucking and all the logistics teams in between as one of our largest products. And so I just recognize that there's a lot of elements to this. Again, I stand on my position based on the concerns from the community and having to walk out and see folks asleep on couches, to see drug use, and to see the things that were stated today, but also want to make sure that firmly on the record I'm standing behind this because of the concerns around food safety, because I do think that given what we do in this valley, in this county, it's a key concern as we move forward in how we address this issue and making sure that we keep the food supply safe for the nation.
And I would just remind us, just for history's sake, that when we opened the Marina Safe Parking Program, it was because those very food safety concerns, because they were parking on Lapis Road next to agricultural fields. So we've been here before, and I support exploring a safe parking program if that's what Supervisor Church wants to do. But I think in Marina, I think the first year back in 2017 when we did that, it cost $150,000 to $200,000 a year. But then the cost became much more when we had problems at that safe parking program, and people needed to be towed, and police needed to be brought in. Staff were having a very hard time. Supervisor Askew's staff were concerned with the problems because it was just outside their office, and we had to bring in people to clean up sewage out of the RVs. I mean, it got very expensive and it got really out of control. So I only say that because I remind us. It sounds like easy doing this, but when you go into these other efforts, there's a long-term responsibility and other costs that are not originally factored in, like the case management and having somebody out there during the nighttime hours. We spent way more than that initial cost on the hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we had no other choice because it was a lot of safety concerns going on there at that time. That's all I wanted was to mention those 2 points, looking at what we learned from the Lapis Road efforts.
Supervisor Daniels?
Just want to put this out there. What I want to ensure is that there's an option, and I certainly don't want to force anybody into a safe parking program, and which I think is where sometimes it gets tricky, creating one where folks are, we'll just leave it there. But I just think that if we can coincide this work with at least the investigation, right? At least, I think there's going to be a willingness to support it on this board. So if it could just continue to move forward with what's being presented today, and also work on just continuing the conversation that Supervisor Church's office is having with Roxanne, and see if there's some interest we can find in District 2 for a program. So when this moves forward, if folks want to participate, there is an option, and that choice is on them, that the onus is on them to participate and know that an option was provided.
Supervisor Church?
I'm trying to see if I can pull something together here in terms of a motion, and listening to the safe parking request there, and I don't know, going ahead and principles essentially and general support for that kind of direction. Happy to add that to the recommendations here. I know Supervisor Lopez also expressed a concern about food safety, and whether maybe a way to address that in that particular area is to look at Allison as well, which is the side street down there where there's a lot of agricultural fields. So adding those two into the recommended actions, I don't know if that would generally address everyone's concerns. I'll make a motion with it then with those additions.
You have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. I'll ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Is that understood, Director Ishii? Any clarification necessary?
Motion is understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate your work.